Most men know intellectually that time is finite, that the years are passing, that the life is happening right now. They know it. But knowing something and actually living as thought it's true are two completely different things. And the gap between those two, between knowing and actually living it, is where most of a man's life quietly disappears. If that landed, if you felt something just now, stay with me and like this video if it resonates, and subscribe if you want more of this kind of honesty. There are no hacks here, no systems, just a man walking with his dog and telling the truth about what he's noticed. I want to describe something I noticed in myself. For a long time, years, honestly, I was physically present in my life, but mentally somewhere else. Not always, but most of the time. At dinner, thinking about work, thinking about what I should have done during my working hours. That was when I was at dinner. And then at work, thinking about the weekend. And then on the weekend, thinking about the week ahead. So I was always present in body and absent in the only way that actually matters. And here is the thing. It didn't feel like absence. It felt like planning, like being responsible, like staying on top of things. I thought I was managing my life well. What I was actually doing was living almost entirely in a version of time that didn't exist. I think this is one of the most common experiences among men in their 40s and their 50s, and one of the least examined. Because the mind's habit of leaving the present, of drifting into the future and replaying the past is so automatic, so constant, so deeply embedded that most men never notice it as a habit. They just notice its effects. The sense of days passing without quite being inside them. The relationships that feel slightly surface level, even with people they genuinely love. And the moments, important ones, unrepeatable ones, that registered but didn't quite land. Because the part of him that was supposed to receive them was somewhere else, worrying about something that hadn't happened yet. Relitigating something that already had, everywhere, reliably, except where he actually was. But here is the strange part. The truth about time that most men ignore is not that it's running out. Most men know that. On some level, they feel it. The truth they actually ignore is more immediate, more uncomfortable. The truth is that time is not something that happens to you. Time is what you are made of. Every hour spent worrying about the future is an hour of your actual life, not preparation for your life, not overhead. Your life. Every evening passed in distraction, every dinner where the phone was more present than you were, every conversation where you were technically there, but mentally always somewhere else, entirely. Those are not the gaps between your life. Those are your life. And most men never feel the full weight of that truth. Not because they're careless, because the mind is extraordinarily good at making the present feel less real than the future is anxious about, or the past is something it keeps returning to. And so here is something worth understanding about why the present is so hard to stay in. The present asks something of you that the future and past don't. The future and past are manageable. You can think about them, plan them, revise them. They respond to the mind's organizing activity. But the present just is. It doesn't wait for you to process it. It doesn't hold still while you get your bearings. It simply happens. And that happening, that raw, uncontrollable, this is what's here quality, is uncomfortable for a mind that prefers to be in control. So the mind leaves, not deliberately, not automatically. It retreats to the familiar territory of past and future, where it can organize, plan, and feel useful. And the present, the only place where life actually occurs, gets the reminder. The attention that's left over after the worry and the planning and the rehearsal have taken what they need. And this is where things become interesting, because the cost of that division is almost never felt in a single moment. No individual moment of absence is catastrophic. The cost accumulates in the aggregate of the years, in the slow, invisible total of the moments a man was in the room without being in the room. Most men never add up that total until something makes them stop and look. And something changes after 40 and after 50 in how clearly a man can see his pattern in himself. When you're younger, the future is large enough to absorb the cost of living in it. There's still time, there's still more ahead. The present that got missed doesn't feel too precious, because the next present is coming right behind it. But after 40 and after 50, something changes in that calculus. The future, that was always the destination, starts to feel less infinite. And the presents that got missed, all those dinners, those evenings, those ordinary days passed walking your dog. Like while the mind was always somewhere else. Like they were not important. This is what I'm trying to say. Now, they feel less replaceable. Not with grief necessarily, with a different kind of attention. A man starts to notice when he's living the present, starts to notice the specific pull, the anxiety about tomorrow, the rehearsal of tomorrow's conversation, the background hum of everything that isn't here. And sometimes, with some effort, he comes back. Not permanently, not perfectly, but more than before. And the moments he manages to actually be in, the ones where the mind is here and the body is here, and there's no gap between them, those moments feel different, fuller, more real. Like actually living rather than managing a life. Rather than managing from a slight distance. Here is the truth about time most men ignore, and I mean this very specifically. The present moment is the only place where anything that matters can actually happen. Not in the plan, not in the memory, not in the anticipation of the next thing. In the actual moment of contact between a man and his life. The conversation that went somewhere, it happened because someone was actually there for it. The love that was felt, it was felt in the moment of feeling it, not in the planning or the remembering. The joy, the grief, the beauty of ordinary things, the experience of being genuinely known by another person. All of it requires presence. Full, undivided, undeferred presence. And most men, good men, caring men, men who mean well, offer the people and the moments of their lives something less than that. Not out of indifference, out of habit. The habit of a mind that was trained to be always preparing for what's next and almost never just here for what's now. And the cost of that habit, felt in its full weight, is that a man can arrive at the end of decades of living and realize it was always only partially inside most of it. That the life happened and it was nearby, not quite there. So I want to ask you something honest. And I'd really like to know your answer. I would really like to know your answer. Drop it in the comments. Let me know. Right now, today, this week, where does your mind spend most of its time? In the past, replaying conversations, decisions, things that happened. In the future, planning, worrying, rehearsing, anticipating. Or genuinely here, in what's actually in front of you. Because most men, when they're honest, spend the majority of their mental life in a time that doesn't exist, either relitigating what's already done or pre-living what hasn't happened yet. And the present, the only time where anything is actually real, gets the scraps. And so let me know. Tell me in the comments. You can also just write past, future, or present. Where do you actually live? Because I think most men already know the answer. And saying it out loud is the beginning of doing something about it. The truth about time that most men ignore is not complicated. It's just uncomfortable. Every moment of your life is being lived right now, not remembered, not anticipated. Lived. And the quality of attention you bring to it, the degree to which you are actually present in your own experience, is the single variable that most determines whether the life feels like yours. Not the achievements, not the income, not the version of success that the outside world can measure. The quality of presence you bring to the moments that constitute the actual substance of your days. That's it. That's the truth most men ignore. Because it asks something difficult. Not sacrifice, not discipline, not some dramatic change. Just the daily, imperfect, never finished practice of coming back to here, coming back to now, to the actual life happening in the only moment that will ever exist. I think about this every time I go for a walk, because walking is one of the things I do where the mind can actually catch up the body, where the pace is slow enough that the present becomes hard to live. And in these moments, when I'm actually here, actually moving, actually breathing, it's in these moments life feels different. Not bigger, not more successful. Just real. Just actually happening. And that quality small as it sounds, is what I keep coming back to. Because at the end of it all, the question isn't what you achieved. It's how much of it you were actually there for. Let me know if this is a question you've been sitting with, if you recognize that gap between knowing and actually living it. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment. Past, future, present. I will read every comment. And subscribe if you want to keep working with me. This is what I do here in this channel, one moment at a time. And if you want to keep working with me, you will find the next video here, and I will see you there.